put you to sleep. Don't go to sleep and don't go home, because in the afternoon we're going to have a party, and I mean a real party, you know, less like. All right, we are ready for the debate, right? So Richard is still trying on him, so he needs a charger to maintain his time. I asked him to use my phone, but then if he doesn't use it for a certain amount of time, this screensaver comes on, and then he has to punch in my password. Obviously, I don't want to give my password to Richard. So it's he has to go and get a charger. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. We will have 3 rounds of debate for each team. A little bit too many for my liking, but anyway, the global positioning system has been mapped out, and the flight has already left, so there is no way I could change that. So 5. Each speaker will have 4 minutes. So the rule, insofar as the time is concerned, is that you will have 4 minutes. When 3 minutes is up, you will hear the first bell. When the final minute is up, you will hear the second bell. Do not try your luck by going beyond time. All right? Here it is based on time. It is not based on luck. And you might really risk losing points for your team. So debaters, the marking scheme criteria 1, we're looking at demonstration of clear and robust comprehension of the topic. That means that you must have, to some extent, demonstrable ability of mastering the topic and understanding the topic. Number 2, at least use some evidence, facts, or data to substantiate or back your arguments. Number 3, logic and comprehension of presentation. 4, flair, style, fluency in language and communication. And number 5, convincing power. So in other words, your case must be a convincing case. The adjudicators are Dr. Ali Kinkin, Dr. Solomon Awili, and Dr. George Ryle. Of course, the head adjudicator or umpire will be Dr. Ryle, so will be responsible for tabulating the average scores and then giving a score to each team. Now for round number 1, the topic is a complete shutdown in a COVID-19 environment is bad for business in PNG. Is Richard here yet? No. So Team MVIL is the government team, or for the 4 team, it will argue for the topic. In other words, it will argue on a complete shutdown in a COVID environment is bad for business in PNG. And then we have Team TISA, which is really the opposition team that will be against the topic. We have a mixture of team members. The teams do not represent only one program, so there will be a mixture of the team members in a particular team. Now I understand, I've just received word that 2 teams have mentioned to me that one has said the 5th speaker is not here, or they don't have a 5th speaker. The other has just mentioned to me that they only have 3 speakers. I don't know what has resulted in that. But look, hey, on Tuesday, we put the bullet in the chamber and we cocked the gun and we fired the bullet on Tuesday. There's no way I'll run back and then bring back the bullet. Bullet, I'm go, yeah? So if you want me to withdraw and bring the bullet back and say, now I will change to 3 or 4, I will not do that. The bullet is gone. All right, this has been fired on Tuesday. So the rules are that we will stick to 5 presenters. Now this is what we're going to do, all right? We will improvise. So if your team does not have a presenter, or the presenter is not available or present, or for one reason or another, you're running short, It means you will just grab somebody here that you know or your colleague and ask them to be part of the team. Failing that, the other alternative strategy would be, all right, and I do not encourage that, but if worse comes to worse, we will do it. Say if you are a number 4 speaker and then number 5 speaker is not there, you can take the place of number 5 speaker. So you play dual roles. You will be the number 4 speaker and you will also be the number 5 speaker. So let's make it fair. We have 5 speakers so that we can score the speakers. Unfortunately, we cannot change the number of speakers. All right, I was thinking of changing it to 4, but this is a large group, so as much as possible, we need to give the opportunity for all students to participate. You know what, Welo, you become kege na drink beer, lo avino na you know participate. In PNG, we always say, atwag man mas kai. You know atwag, you know not kai. That's a principle. So, for those groups that do not have 5, you know atwag man. Get another 1% and make it 5 and then we continue. Where's Richard? Is Richard here? Oh, Richard is here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite Team MVIL. All right. So the government is always on the right, huh? Oh, where? All right. So let me invite Team MVIL to sit on that side, and then which is affirmative or the government side, and let me invite Team TISA to sit on this side, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a hand as they come. So let me repeat again, on that side, further side there, we have the government side, they are the affirmative side or for the topic, and on this side we have the negative side or the side that is opposing to the topic. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic for round 1 of the debate is a complete shutdown in a COVID-19 environment is bad for business in PNG. Let me now, without further ado, and you have 4 minutes. First 3 minutes you will hear the bell. Final minute you will hear the second bell, which means that you have to stop. So let me now invite the first speaker of TMVIL or Team MVIL to present their team's case. Thank you.
Test. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Sorry, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Our group here will talk about a complete shutdown in a COVID-19 environment is bad for PNG economy. We will go for this idea. We will support this idea. All right, I would like to introduce my members. I am Simon Marme. He is Benjamin Pei, and he is Martin Chine, and he is Dr. Leonard Amos. All right, I will be the first speaker, and then followed by our colleague speakers here. We'll go for this COVID-19. COVID-19 just affect us, and we all know Papua New Guinea. It started somewhere in China, and then reached up to USA and to Europe and all over the world. It's not new. We all know the world is all aware of this COVID-19, and it affects all spheres of life. business, political life, social life, education, everywhere it affects. But one significant thing that we want to go for this is that COVID-19 was a well issue. It gets the world and the people around the world. They try to prevent and they try to stop this sickness, but they cannot. So it just get across the world. In PNG, why we say a complete shutdown in PNG's COVID-19 environment in PNG is not good, because PNG seem to copycat. Whilst on this note, that COVID-19 has never been to PNG, and PNG already exhausted its means to combat the spread of COVID-19 in PNG, which we see that the reactive measures that going ahead is not good. So I will let my speakers will talk on different topics. But for us, I introduce the team, the topic. As far as we see, it is not good for us to take a complete ban, because it affects all spheres of life around the world, but particularly it affects PNG. Thank you. I will now put the mic on the table.
I forewarned all of you that do not waste the bullet. You have still more time here and you're just wasting time. So you still probably have 2 more minutes, but anyway. Let me now ask the first speaker of the negative team to please come forward and present the team's case.
Thank you very much. My question is, are you alive? Okay, thanks. Because of the shutdown, we are here. Okay, my team will be speaking against, but it's structured the way different. Okay, let me just go through a round of information of COVID-19. COVID-19 is a very infectious disease. All of us know. I will not say much about that. Because of the country has to come to a shutdown because of health reasons. This is very important. We are not considering other issues like economy or health or economy or education. We are concerned about our health. Our society needs people, and people has to be healthy in order to make move the society ahead. Okay, we are for that because we see that COVID-19, the government has made a prompt decision in shutting the country because this is very essential, very, very essential. But in between, there's some very beneficial factors in there. We are thinking always, we were sitting down here, we are thinking about the bad side of it, like I've mentioned earlier, but there are some very good, important factors because of COVID-19. So my team will be basically speaking for that, and we are for that because we see that there's a lot of things, a lot of good things because of the total shutdown. So on that, I'll probably leave it there, and then, yeah, sorry, I didn't introduce my team. Clarence, Clarence Parsa will be my second speaker, and John Yanda, third speaker. Our sister Hena Singha will be the fourth speaker, and team will round it up. Thank you.
Both speakers have managed to present their presentation below the timing. That's fine. Let me now call the second speaker of the affirmative side, the government side, to present their team's case.
Afternoon. I strongly support the first speaker from the affirmative side, affirmative team, and I want to rebut on the against the first speaker on the topic that he said we need to be healthy. We are already healthy. We have not been touched by that sickness yet. It's like we have overreacted. This COVID thing never came on our shores. But already we have gone into millions now in spendings, which is, in fact, we have overreacted. Okay, why my group has supported this is based on some of these factors that I will be mentioning. When you do let's have a look at this. PNG, in our context is special. We are not like in the westernized, totally industrialized nations. When you look at the reality, in PNG we have less than 10% on working and on formal sector contributing to the GDP. When you look at it, more than 90, a little bit more than 90%, they are not directly contributing to the GDP. And if you put a shutdown, that means you are knocking the living daylight out of PNG by shutting down. When you put a total shutdown, that basically implies that you are putting your productivity into nil. It's going to be shut off. When there is no productivity, that means all the business houses will be reporting on their balance sheet negatively. And resulting from that, they will not be paying tax to IRC. And then resulting from that, government will not be making enough money. That's it. That's the kind of situation we can see now. Okay, it will have implications on both GDP and GNP. It will weaken the revenue generation, high budget deficit. When we have high budget deficit, meaning that the government will be looking at borrowing money to make up for that deficit from domestic sources and also international sources of funding agencies. Of course, there will be inflation, high inflation. And when we have total restrictions, people won't be attending work. And it won't be a good climate for foreign investors. We won't be attracting any investors from outside. Like we have had some well-structured presentations this morning from Professor Melam. According to his own presentation, he said 38% of the GDP comes directly from the hydrocarbon industry. And 3% alone comes from Porgera itself. I'm out. Okay, thank you.
All right, just annotation, time is not transferable, so if your compatriot doesn't utilize the time, it means that it's forfeited. May I ask the second speaker of the opposition side to please present the case of their team?
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Chair, adjudicators, and audience. My name is Clarence, and I also thank the opposition side, and thank you, the team. I will be mainly touching on one of the very important factors that the government took. Whether you like it or not, the economy was shut down. And I can qualify that by, because I work for immigration and I know what we did during that time based on best advice on what was happening around the world. During that time, the pandemic, as we all know, was spreading very widely in Wuhan. That's where it started. World Health Organization did not, it was sort of like in a confused mode. So there was no clear advice on what it was. So based on also the economy in PNG, when we have beginning of the year, we normally have the Chinese who travel to their countries to enjoy the New Year. So during that time, it was necessary, based on advice and records, that a lot of Chinese who are PNG national residents were returning from Wuhan. So we advised the government that I think it's necessary for us to first take the first step by putting a ban on foreign flights coming in from Hong Kong, from Manila, and other countries, particularly from Japan. That's where most of the foreigners were coming in from, who had previously been to China. So the first thing why we still believe that the complete shutdown was necessary in Papua New Guinea is health infrastructure. We don't have the health infrastructure in the country. And as we all know, Papua New Guinea, we have a lot of diseases that our mothers are dying from cancer, breast, dying from giving birth to babies. We cannot control that. We don't have the facilities. But with what we were seeing on the news on CNN, ABC, and all the foreign media, it was killing people. And we thought the first thing that we should do was just shut down the flights. And that's what the government did on the 28th of March. The third one is the border. Indonesia, is during the time, we were getting, I think you would know that there was a lot of discussions around Indonesia not sharing information. Even though it's the biggest, one of the biggest, the most populous country in this region, even though people were dying, no one was reporting about that. So we had to close down the border in Wutung just to stop people from moving in and out of the border. So in order for us to protect the citizens from getting the COVID-19, we had to close down the borders. The third reason, I think it's basically the importance of health. The health of Papua New Guineans is very important, and like I said, no infrastructure, and there was no testing facilities. What we see at Rita Flynn was brought in after, many months after COVID was already killing people around the world. And there is already, Papua New Guinea was the first country in South Pacific to put a ban on international travel. Australia came after that. They put a ban on travels, but yet people are dying. People were dying. There is more than 906 COVID-19 deaths in Australia, whereas for PNG, it's only 6 or 7. In New Zealand, the same. All the Pacific Islanders came after and shut down the borders. That's mainly to protect the citizens from people who were traveling in and out from other countries who would have potentially brought in COVID-19 that they had taken from other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we've come to the third speaker of the negative side, opposition. So let me call the third speaker of the opposition side.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, and good afternoon, audience. We, from this side, we agree that a complete shutdown is bad for our economy. My predecessor talked about the impact of the economic impacts. I'll be talking a bit on economic impacts plus social impacts of complete shutdown. That disease has never reached a source as far as, well, we don't have any medical confirmations yet, but we have overreacted to completely shutting down our economy, and now our government is struggling to get money to run its operation, and this is we all know that. What it means in an environment of a complete shutdown, what it means is there is no public gathering, there is no public transport, small businesses have been forced to shut down, a lot of employees are low level, those any below 20,000 a year, those have been laid off. Schools have been shut down, hospitals, operations have been downsized. Only key diseases have been treated because of the shutdown. This largely impacted on the incomes of a lot of people in Papua New Guinea. Incomes have been reduced. Consumption is also, because of a lot of firms downsizing their labor force, which leads to reduction in wages, which affected consumption of ordinary people, which also leads to poor nutrition, and this is not good for our country. We don't have the capacity to manage ourselves. We don't have any fallback options to support us if we had completely shut down our economy for some month or two. In the last 2 weeks, I guess that was a complete shutdown. We have had the impacts of people complaining that we can't continue to live in isolation in a complete shutdown. That's why I guess this has forced our government to reopen, but on a new measure where you keep 1 meter away, or 2 meters, 1.5 meters away. I want to make mention about one of the statements made by our Acting Secretary for Health, Dr. Poison Dakulala, on the 4th of May this year. He said that all COVID-19 known cases have been treated and they have all recovered. And he also made mention that he does not know what we are fighting for. The government has committed a lot of funds into fighting this disease. Health services have been shut down. People who have been getting sick from other diseases cannot get health service because the health facilities have been shut down or downsized. And we see that this shutdown is not good for PNG. Maybe for other countries, first world and second world countries, they have got a capacity. Those who have been laid off work, there's no social support programs introduced by our government to support them when they are laid off work. They are suffering on the, they can't be able to support themselves and their families. We really would not go into complete shutdown because it is not helping us, helping the government, helping our livelihood. When the sick was, this is not, well, this sick hasn't reached our source. We've been overreacting, and we haven't had confirmed cases of people with COVID-19 on our land yet. Thank you.
Okay, we are now at the fourth speakers of each side, so let me call upon the fourth speaker of the government affirmative side to present the case of the team.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll talk on the responsible decision by the government in terms of total shutdown is needed. First point, we have 500 doctors against 10 million or so people in this country, which means there are very few number of people, doctors would be allocated to patients. So that means the what do you call it, the ratio is very little. That's why it is needed. Second, we have very poor infrastructure in the country. Even the Prime Minister said there's not enough bed in Pom General Hospitals, which means this is very serious. So a shutdown is needed. If the third point, if other diseases cannot be treated, the government didn't show any capacity to handle, which means this is another added responsibility, which is going to be a problem. So a shutdown is needed. And we have real cases and statistics of world people are dying caused by coronavirus. All right, we do not have cases caused by downturn in economy or possible effect that would be caused by economy. So, you see, corona is killing people. So we need to shut down. Before I go to the next, I'll go and rebut point made by speaker number one. He said the world is facing a very serious issue globally, which means it is serious. That's in favor of the decision that we are making here. The second speaker also talks about the economy. PNG is 10% only, which means 90% we are capable. We have a mixed economy and traditional-based economy. We are capable of living. So we can manage temporary. Now these are temporary things. Back to my point. Lives are more important than anything else. So the gamble is right. We need to shut down. We cannot be testing whether or not we are dying or not. We need to shut down. Vanuatu did that. Vanuatu is a very small country based on tourism. In April this year, tsunami hit that one, but against this whole complication, it shut it down still. And then it reported no case. So you see, that's how a small country like this one is benefiting from such decision. My the last one is you don't have to wait and then see whether or not you are getting that disease. Like US president has done that, former president rather. So until he got infected, he went to the house and he once said, "Oh, now I'm in a real classroom." Thank you.
All right, thank you, Team Tisa. Let me now call upon the next speaker of the government side, which I believe is the fourth speaker, I think.
Good afternoon. I'm the last and the final speaker of the team, which is strongly embarking and saying that the restrictions that have been placed is not really good. We have a couple of reasons basically to support that, and my team has actually alluded that. We are saying that the PNG, actually, the controllers have overreacted. They were misconceived, and they overlooked the implications that may follow after the so-called unplanned restriction, and that's very valid. Okay. When you look at the composition of the controllers themselves, you see, they lack medical professionals. So without proper basis of research, proper basis of analysis of documents, you cannot just go up and start putting umbrella decisions that will really affect the population. That's really unfair. It's really unfair. Okay. My other supporting, my point is that you look at the supply chain. See, when the supply chain is cut off, you got no alternative. I think the government did not say, the other opponent team did not say about the alternatives that they have when you have this, the ban in place. You see, that is illogic, misconceived. You must have plans set aside or plans ahead to basically support what you're planning to do. That is not happen. So what, you see, when look at the scenario, health department is facing a medical supplies issue here. So when you have a complete ban, what's an alternative? Where are you getting the medical supplies? You see, these are the real situations that you really need to analyze. So these guys have just blindly go ahead and put in a ban, which is totally wrong. You're killing your own people. So that's basically why we're saying that the ban was totally wrong. Okay, my next point is the COVID-19 Act, passed to the Parliament. You see, when you look at the provisions there, some of these provisions are basically in breach of human rights. PNG is part of a global community. You cannot just go ahead and pass some laws which really affect our international partners, which we are part of. This is totally wrong. This is totally wrong. So those heads need to be revisited, revised, and then at least we have other alternative plans which are already in place, the emergency plans. They should seek advice probably from the Department of Health. And that is why, when we are saying that, the order itself was misconceived and misunderstood. Okay? So we are saying that we are rushing up things here without realizing the implications that may follow. So that's our point. Okay, the other important comment is this. The management of the COVID-19 was basically taken out of the department itself. And this is really bad. We have facilities there. We have the systems already in place. Why not we use the existing system rather than creating another scenario, another place where you need resources, you need time to basically get things rolling. That's never been conceived. That has never been thought of. So you are trying to operate a parallel system when we have the existing system that's already in place. So this is ill-advised. So these are the real issues. Why are we putting a complete restriction, complete shutdown when proper things need to be analyzed before we can come up with those kind of restrictions? Okay, the other thing is our colleagues may have talked about travel restriction. You see, PNG, we don't have a capacity. In terms of health, we really lack capacity. We don't have all the requirements, all the equipment that we need for our patients, PNG patients that basically going through some medical treatment. So basically these are the patients that are going out. So when you are restricting them, you are indirectly killing them. You don't have a plan for that. So you have to revitalize your decisions before you can come up with an umbrella decision like it. I think our time is running up, so I got a lot more points to say, but.
Okay, thank you. That was the fourth speaker of the affirmative side. Let me call the second last speaker of the opposition side to present the case for the opposition. Thanks.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm with the team that's going for complete shutdown, and I will specifically rebut on the economic aspect of it. I rebut on the second speaker that's going against the complete shutdown. He mentioned about inflation. He also mentioned that there will be no work, and there's no work, no investment, and all that. So I will specifically talk about two main points. So when people have to be alive in order to, do all these activities to generate income and trade and all these things. People have to be healthy in order to do that. So what is really the opportunity here is that the government has created avenues where those who are laid off because some employers cannot pay them, so they can always access their funds at NESFund and then CSL. I'm sure all of you have read about the media statements made by the CEO of NESFund that they can access their funds, and then it's also a golden opportunity for them to get engaged in SMEs. So funding is made available to the banks. And then the bank is also giving a grace period during this time, COVID period. So it's a really good time for the SMEs to bloom in this time when everyone is seeing it as a bad thing. So in that way, they will create employment. And when you talk about inflation, what in particular are you talking about? Because inflation, if you're talking about increase in prices of imported goods, then it's a very good time now that we stop all the imports and then we get back to our land and work our way up. If you can see from Panguna, the BCL crisis, so the Bougainvilleans have actually turned coconut oil into fuel. If you haven't watched that documentary, I suggest you go and look for it and watch. So we can always do such things to, keep our economy within the country alive while all our people are safe and healthy. Yep. So we don't need, well, so far, if you can see, the tax that we are getting is only a small portion from those foreign investors you are talking about. They are just coming to make money from our land. So it's by time that we shut down everything and then deal with all our issues internally. Okay, just a quick disclaimer here on my part. I think we're touching a little bit on politics, so please, the purpose of this is for educational only, and we're not in support of any political teams. Thank you.
Now, the final speaker of the government side, they do not have a final speaker, so I've asked if Doctor can make a case summarizing the position of the team.
Thank you. Basically, I'll take this time to rebuild on some of these, the issues that brought up by our team. Basically, what I said was that, what the first speaker said was that they did it for a health reason. Okay. But you did not give us fully aligned the capacity that you have. Do you have enough capacity to basically, you thought that like the patients can be able to go and seek treatment there when you have a complete shutdown? Complete shutdown means that no travel, no ambulance traveling, no PMVs traveling to bring the patients back and forth. You did not give us exactly the situation where like PNG is capable of in terms of health to manage those patients who are unable to basically visit the health facilities. Okay, so in that area, I think you did not touch properly. So basically, you failed in that area. Secondly, once again, travel restrictions. PNG is a thriving economy. You have to know that we base on tourism. We need investors to come in. You need to analyze things properly. Our economy is very poor. She has been alluded by Dr. Milan here, Professor Milan. It stated our economy based on the mining sector, mining hydrocarbon sector. And basically these are the M&Es, these are the FDIs that we really need to support. And you did not analyze these situations probably before you went ahead to have that umbrella banning to restrict this. And that is like, it's not building a good confidence with our international community. You see, so we lack capacity, so we must not have those kind of umbrella decisions to basically affect our economy and affect the other sectors as well. So I thought that you have basically failed in that area. Okay, the other thing, this our second speaker mentioned was based on the number of health workers that we have. That was very true. We have less number of health workers compared to our total population. If that was the case, then you should have analyzed it properly. You see, putting a total restriction is you are killing people. You cannot come out. Some people they're very sick. They don't have supplies. So you look at the HIV and TB patients. You see, those patients are treatment. And those treatments are very expensive. Even the PNG government cannot buy them. So we are basically depending on countries like Australia. And I know that it came out on the media. Okay, because of serious mismanagement of this kind of funding and all that stuff. You see, they're unable to support. So you did not provide alternative. So where do we get the money? See, so that is a very serious problem. So what we want to say here is that basically we must analyze those situations properly before we can come up with those kind of umbrella orders which will have serious implications. And that's very important. That's very important. Yeah, I think basically that's what I want to do. And then the very last point is in terms of COVID-19. You see, we really don't have a real statistics, and that's very important. And you have already also noted that the doctors, medical professionals are putting up some conflicting informations, and that's very bad. You know, doctors have been trusted by people, our patients. We have confidence in them. But when you see doctors conflicting informations, you see, it's very serious. It's very serious. So that means that we have a leadership with that. See, there is something wrong. There is something wrong. So in that scenario, whatever decisions that we make is terribly going to be wrong. So let's understand all this and then try to do some things which will really help our economy, help our people, and let's prosper in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you, and that was the last and final speaker of the affirmative government side. Let me now call upon the last speaker of the opposing side to present the case and wrap up the case of the opposition team.
Thank you. At least he did agree on one thing, that's the medical statistics. And I think complete shutdown, what we mean is the international borders, movement of people. These are the things that we don't want people to move. The important thing like banking sectors, essential sector, essential activities will still continue. But shutting down of international borders and movements of people coming in, like what my second speaker have made mention, it is a period where you have the Chinese New Year Day. We've got number of populations here in PNG. We know that we've got good number of Chinese people coming back from that. That is why it's important that we put a restriction on that. Life is very important, as per my first speaker had made mention. Life is very important. The decision of us making, the decision supporting the complete shutdown is necessary, is important because of life. In terms of economy will always pick up. An experience in 2015, the GDP was below its 1.5 or something like that. And then we recover, nobody died. And today too, nobody died, despite the lower in GDP. So life is important. That is what we're saying. To control the spread of the coronavirus here in PNG. We know PNG is a society where one-talk system is one of those. In a house, there are 3 or 4, 5 people in one house. That is why for PNG, in a society like that, it's very important that the government put a strict movement of people and shutdown, complete shutdown is necessary. In April 2020, half the population was under lockdown, 3.9 billion. More than 90 countries who recommend curfew or lockdown. And that is what the UNDP, Health, WHO also have recommended. And for PNG not to recognize that, it's something that we need to be seriously think of. One of the important things, like we have done our studies and statistics that we have seen, it's like what my speaker made mention. We don't have good facility. That's very important. In terms of tracking, to track them down and then to identify them is one of the challenges that we saw that it will be a problem. And the other thing is the testing facility. We're relying on Goroka. And then when the flights, you take a day or two to actually go and come back, and the time waited to actually get the results, you put in life at risk. That is why it's very important that we need to shut that down. Poor infrastructure facility. You go to 3 Mile. Everybody is sleeping on the floor, you see. So what do you expect? If we can just, cure a simple malaria patient who die from malaria, think of COVID-19, This is something that we have made an assessment of, and it is something that we don't want to take the risk. Economy will always recover. Life lost, you cannot recover. In absence of treatment, that is one thing that we've seen. That is why because of no treatment, it's very important that we put a restriction of movement. We've seen from India, that it's one of the second largest country that is really affected. The India PM ordered a complete lockdown. Many families will be destroyed forever if the country does not take action. In PNG, that is what we're doing, taking a complete lockdown to save the life of our people. Thank you.
Please let us put our hands together again for the two teams. The umpires have the raw grade, and I think they will calculate that we will give them time at the end. So I'd like to thank the two teams. Please take a seat. We will call the other teams in. The other two teams for round 2. Now the way it's going to play out is like this. The winner of round 1 will compete with the winner of round 2 in the grand final. So the second topic is an ongoing topic, and that regards the management and ownership of state-owned enterprises in PNG, which is arguably is a constant sort of concern for all of us. And so the topic is state-owned enterprises should be privatized. We have the Team BSP. Can I call the Team BSP to come forward and take the seat for the topic? So, Mr. Baliwasa, your team can take the seat at on the far end. So, Team BSP will argue for the privatization of state-owned enterprises. And then we have Team National Planning, who are actually the opposition, and they will be opposing the topic. So, let me ask Team DNPM on Department of National Planning to please come here and take this seat. So Team BSP is on that side, those who are for the topic. All right. I think Moses, your team is on this side. Again, the 4 minutes rule will apply. First 3 minutes, then the bell, and then the last bell will indicate that you have exhausted your time. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, state-owned enterprises should be privatized. Let me now call upon the first speaker of the affirmative side, which is the government side, to please present the case.
Thank you, MC. The judges, the audience, good afternoon to you all. We are the affirmative side. We will debate on state-owned enterprises should be prioritized. Before I move on, I will have to introduce to you my speakers. My second speaker is Hans. The third speaker is Grace. Fourth speaker is Joshua, and the last speaker is Baltic. So, why state-owned enterprises are created? For what purpose? Basically, state-owned enterprises are created to generate revenue and contribute to the government coffers in terms of dividends. So in this scenario, we see that in the context of Papua New Guinea, most of the state-owned enterprises or the business arms of the government are not making money and contributing enough to the government revenue. So that is why state-owned enterprises need to be prioritized. Why we have to prioritize? The first reason is you will see that in most cases, most of our state-owned enterprises is politicized, meaning politicians are taking control. They appoint their own cronies and they manipulate them in the process of making decisions. That's the reason why you will see that in most cases, most of these state-owned enterprises are not making enough revenue for the government. The second reason why state-owned enterprises should be prioritized because in terms of government, they lack the management skills, the expertise, experience. So we have to give this to the private sector, simply shifting the government business to the private sector to manage it so that they can provide the services that worth the value. That's the whole reason. In terms of engaging the private sector to own those state-owned enterprises, they have to recruit the best people. Because in terms of recruitment and selection in those private companies, you will see that they always apply transparency and accountability when they make the selection process, so that they can hire the best people to take up the positions, and they can make the best decisions to make money for that organization. Next is, when state-owned enterprises are given to the private sectors, they have the technical expertise, meaning they have the management skills, the resources available that they can deliver. Whereas in terms of government, we always give excuses. So that's one thing, because in the private sector, they always emphasize on profit orientation. The main motive is to make profit. And to make profit, they have to provide the best services. So in order for the government to progress, they need to prioritize the public state-owned enterprises to the private sectors. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the first speaker of the government side. I'd like to call the first speaker of the negative side, the opposition, to present a case for the team. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson, the judges, the affirmative team, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the first speaker of the negative team. I'll be speaking on the topic as mentioned by the affirmative team, the first speaker. Privatization should be, SOE should be privatized in PNG, since we're going against SOE should not be privatized in a developing country like Papua New Guinea. So I'll be giving a brief historical background of privatization. The second speaker will be speaking on the social impact of why privatization should, SOE should not be privatized in a developing country like PNG. The third speaker will speak on the general implications of the privatization of state-owned enterprises, and the fourth speaker will speak on the economic implications of why SOE should not be privatized in developing country like Papua New Guinea. Okay, so the first question. Before I proceed, just to remind the affirmative team the reason why there is an existence of state-owned enterprises in a developing country like Papua New Guinea is not because they want to make profit. And I repeat, it's not because they want to make profit, although they are government business. Their main intention is to, any funds they generate is to provide public goods and services. That's the whole reason why government business exists in a developing country like Papua New Guinea. Okay. The first question is privatization of SOEs economically efficient for developing country like Papua New Guinea? Okay. What would be the implications on the country, particularly the citizens, when SOEs are privatized to private businesses? Okay. Historical background. Privatization actually started in 1980s. Member countries to Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, they started privatizing their SOEs, okay? And it actually started in 1980s. PNG adopted in 1990s, okay? So during 1980s, there was what was called the debt crisis, okay? Debt crisis actually occurred in Latin American countries, okay? During that time, what came into existence was the Washington Consensus. Okay, so based on the Washington Consensus, one of the terms of the Washington Consensus is to privatize state-owned enterprise. Okay, if a country wants to obtain structural adjustment loan from the IMF and World Bank. Okay, so in 1990, PNG actually adopted, and what actually happened, okay, was PNGPC was privatized to BSP, of course, as we all know, and some of the implications was people started protesting, okay, because of the adoption of the structural assessment rule, which privatization was one of the terms. And of course, in Argentina, okay, one of the Latin American country, telecommunication, state-run telecommunication company, of course, and electricity was privatized, and the implications was the citizens started protesting against the government because the bill raised up, rates unemployment was high, and the bill started raising up because when the government controls, they subsidize. When the private business control, they don't care about the welfare of the people. All the thing that they care about is profit, yeah. So therefore, as the negative team, we firmly argue that privatization of state-owned enterprises in Papua New Guinea should not be allowed. Thank you.
And that was the first speaker of the opposition side. Let me call the second speaker of the government side to present the case of the government team. Thank you.
Thank you, the first speaker for the affirmative side and the opposition. I'll be talking on the why we encourage privatization for the state entities. The very reason would be for profit making as well as efficiency. Now, in a public sector, you don't have efficiency. That's the other reason why we have to encourage privatization in this. The other main, I would say, is you have to have efficiency for service delivery and goods. You go around all the government entities, even telecom at this date. You won't have efficiency. You won't have effectiveness, even good governance. Now, my first speaker has mentioned about political interference, and that's one of the things that we want to avoid. You see an example, number one super. Previously, it was influenced by government political authoritative there. When it moved off from the political influence and it's now being privatized, now you can see number one super. Nest Fund, they have flourished. Now, that's why we want to see PNG Power, we want to see Telecom, any other state government entities to go along that way. So to flourish, and the underlying reason would be profit making for the government. And when they share this profit or even the dividend, it all spreads across the land. Huh? Everyone enjoys that. At this stage, you won't see whether PNG Power is declaring any profit. You don't see Telecom any profit, nothing. There's no efficiency, governance is lacking there. That's why the government is encouraging privatization on these agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the second speaker of the government side. Let me call the second speaker. I'll call up the second speaker for the opposition side to present the case of the team.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Chairperson. All right, I'm going to talk about the social impacts, the social aspects. All right, so in the event that an SOE is fully privatized, especially in a developing country like PNG, to a private business, that would be what would be the impact on the implications of the citizens? Okay, there are three important points that I will emphasize on. And the first point is the increase in prices of goods and services. Okay, when SOEs are privatized, there will be a loss of focus in the mission which the enterprise was first established. So the need for profit maximization program will take over, encouraging malpractices like the production quality of the products will not be standardized, and also the cost of prices will escalate. The price of goods and services will escalate. For example, if Edarano was privatized, what would happen to our settlers, especially in the settlement areas? I have no doubt that the first step taken would be to cut water supplies. And you can imagine what would happen to the majority of the population. All right. Most of the working class people, even some of us sitting here, most of us, we stay and we come from the settlement areas because we want to avoid cost of rentals and prices of goods and services. All right. Another example would be PNG Power. Sorry, my friend, the second speaker has mentioned something about profit. But what about the prices? What about the price of individual people? Like how will the easy pay will go up, the prices will go up. It will affect the business houses and it will also affect the citizens. So do you guarantee that the monopoly position within the market will be maintained? Okay, my second point is unnecessary fees and charges. I'll take BSP for instance, sorry, no offense. Apart from the savings and personal loans, have you really benefited from any other things? Every transaction that is done in BSP, we are being charged with fees. So the manual deposits, ATM machines, the withdrawals that we do, everything has been charged. So I would like to repeat a statement that was made by Don Polio. He said that not long, BSP will charge the very air that we breathe. So now this makes me, I'm referring back to the Privatization Act in 1999 in terms of partial privatization. Is the possibility golden share being practiced in terms of ensuring that the community service obligations are being met? Okay, my third point is job redundancy. There can be a conflict of interest among stakeholders and management of the buyer, and it can lead to people losing their jobs, and it can impede in the performance of the current enterprise. So to conclude, therefore, there is an uncertainty about the positive duration of the long-term effects of privatization on SOEs. That is to say that privatized firms may be more profit-motivated and overestimate the competitiveness in their foreign markets, attempting to expand too aggressively and thus fail to address the social issues affecting the country as a whole. The government has enough resources and funds available to invest on those companies. What we have to do is to appoint the right leaders to implement the strategies through process re-engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker number 2, Opposition. Let me call Speaker number 3 from the government side, please.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, educators and the chair. All right, as the third speaker of the affirmative side, I would strongly like to firstly rebuke what the first speaker of the opposition side has mentioned on. He talked about history. He looked at the history of privatization when it first started in 1990. I would say, if you look at the deficit budget that we are currently experiencing at the moment, do you say that Papua New Guinea has actually come out of any crisis? Is it any better today? All right, so privatization, I feel that is the way forward for PNG, unfortunately, because we have a lot of politicized policies, we have a lot of politicians who like to power play in the organizations. All right, for instance, Telecom and Digicel. If you look at the two of them, which one of those two is very competitive in the market at the moment? Is it Digicel or is it Telecom? All right, so privatization will give way to competition in line with market forces that are in play in the country, and Papua New Guinea is entering into the global atmosphere now. We need to open up, all right? We need to open up to the outside world. We need to allow investors to come into our country, and that's one way forward that we can drive our economy, all right? And also, when we have politicians heavily involved in policies in our state-owned enterprises, Telecom and MTV, that was recently debated on. Unfortunately, government didn't give way for that. I don't think there's any policy in place at the moment. All right, you find that we're a cultural people, we're people of culture, Papua New Guineans. We like to put our one toxina. There's a lot of nepotism. So this power play thing, when you have somebody in a position, you feel obliged that you have to succumb to them, all right? Whatever influences they have on you, you perform on the role, but at the end of the day, you must make the big boys happy. All right, so we want to do away with that. That's why we feel that privatization is the way forward for PNG. All right, that's my second point. And I would like to strongly support my first and second speaker. My first speaker talked about governance issues, all right? Every business, obviously, we want to make profit. We want to survive. Without profit, we cannot survive. So that's the main aim of any business entity in our country or in any part of the world. So, and why are we starting business here at UPNG? Because of ethics. With business, there's got to be ethics. There's got to be governance issues, all right? So if you want to talk about companies not being profitable in the market, all right, then you probably talk about that in the 80s and in the 70s. We are moving into the global sphere now. We need to move forward. We need to be on par with the rest of the world. All right. Now I would like to talk about essential services like health and education. I'm a teacher myself. Sometimes I sit in a classroom with about 70, 80 students. I'm teaching them. And I wonder, is the government focusing its emphasis on basic services like education and health, or are they busy running state entities? All right? So if we want to talk about government providing essential services for the benefit of our country, these are the prime issues that we should be talking about: education, health, agriculture, all right? PNG is a land of rich resources. We need to mine our resources and export it. That's one way that we can grow our economy, and that will lead to the GDP of our country and push our country forward. And hopefully we will do away with deficit budgets. At the moment, yes, last week's paper, I think PNG has a deficit budget of about 6 billion kina. All right, we want to do away with that. So I strongly feel that that is the way forward for PNG, privatizing our state-owned entities. All right, thank you.
And that was the third speaker of the government side. Let me call the third speaker of the opposition side to present the case of the team.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I want to start off by responding to our opponent's speech on efficiency. Okay, we all know that all business firms, they are profit motivated. They want to make profit. They don't care how much you earn, how much is in your pocket. Okay, whatever they said, that's it. You have to buy. So those people who are, especially in the urban areas, who are employed, they can buy. But the vast majority, and even those who are in the rural areas, they missed out on the basic services or goods provided by the private firms. Okay. Now, what is the role of the government to ensure that the quality of life of each people is improved? And how does it make sure that each people's lives are improved? Through the provision of goods and services. And when state-owned enterprises are privatized, one of the failures of the private firms, they cannot provide all the goods that are needed by the society. They will only provide those goods that they think will make them or give them profit. And other goods will be left out. Okay? So when it comes to efficiency, okay, let's see, some of the goods won't be provided by the firms. They will only provide the goods that will give them profit, that's all. Okay. I mentioned something about improving the quality of life of the people in the country. Okay, have a look at BSP now and PNG Banking Corporation, which was privatized. When I was a little kid, I used to see very old people having these passbooks. People in the village, now with the BSP, do you think everyone in the economy or in the country have accounts with BSP? No. Okay, you see that's the impact of privatization. So those people who are living closer to the urban centers or in the urban centers, they are benefiting more than those who are living in the rural areas. So when it comes to providing services, okay, if it is given to the private firms, like I've said earlier, which group of people will give them more? They will focus on that, okay? So I think SOEs should not be privatized. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the third speaker of the negative side, the opposition. The second last speaker, which is the fourth speaker of the government side, let me just call upon that speaker to present the case of the government.
All right, thank you. I just got plucked out of the crowd to help the team, so I'll do my best. But firstly, thank you, Chair and adjudicators and fellow students. The basic premise that I think the government side, affirmative side, stood on is that the main function of the government is to provide public goods and not to run business. So I think that's something that we all agree. And thank you for the third speaker from the opposition side to agreeing on almost agreeing on the affirmative side in terms of the function of government. So basically PNG-BC versus BSP. She pointed out that the service is not like that before. But thanks to BSP, there's dividends being paid to the government. We're seeing level of services being improved. The role of government, as we all know, is to provide public goods, health, education, security, and that should be where bulk of the funding that is coming out from the revenue that is generated should be spent on that. Leave the running of the business to the private sector. Creation of employment shouldn't be a business of government, and it should be something that should be left to the private sector to generate that growth. Take an example. If you see the structure of the layer of structure of the SOEs now, you have a vertical structures from the NEC right down to the CEO of, say, for instance, the telecom. And from that, you can see the efficiency and ineffectiveness in terms of service delivery already in the structure. And that's where a lot of resources, I think I support my colleague speakers, that a lot of resources is spent on the layers of the structure from the boards of SOEs to KCH and NEC. So already you see, there's a lot of ineffectiveness coming out from there. What we are proposing is that, I think from our side, is that there are different modalities of privatization, and we have learned through since privatization of PNG-BC, a Finance Pacific Group of companies coming up, and these modalities can be used. The community service obligations of is something that can be done with private sectors, involvement in delivery of services such as telecommunication service. So you don't need to 100% privatize the entire business. But the community service obligation, there's a 50, 51, 49% ownership. So different modalities are there. And these are some things that we can have in terms of the prioritization going forward. I think the concern from our side is that of the kind of service that will be provided to the people of Papua New Guinea. But if we can be clever enough in terms of getting the right modality of prioritization involved, we can get the politics outside, out of the business, and leave the business to the private sector to take on from that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and that was the fourth speaker of the government side. Let me call upon the second last speaker, the fourth speaker of the negative side, to present the case of the opposition's team.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
I'm the fourth speaker of the opposition against the government. Okay. Every goods and service is measured by price. In terms of specific units, when I have 2 points to hold that state-owned enterprises should not be privatized. But first of all, let me rebut on their points. When the state is giving away its business arm to the private hands, we don't know who are the sellers, how they make money. Yes, they can come up with efficiency or effectiveness to make money, but how many of the citizens getting benefit through the state-owned enterprises with the government? Government is providing the basic services, goods and services. Like in the case of BSP, we already given out the banking service to a private firm. And now we are trapped in that in terms of price, fees and charges. We should not deny that. If we keep on giving some other business, government businesses to private hands, we don't know. Are they benefiting the entire citizens of the state? Okay. My point, equity. The SOEs are the state assets comprised of manufactured capital, human capital in terms of human skills, natural capital like forest. Okay, at the manufactured capital, SOEs provide more than 50% asset, especially in developing countries. And it is a strength of a nation. Like when you want to negotiate a foreign international loan, you have to provide a basic government asset in terms of equity. So therefore, I hold that state-owned enterprises should not be given away to the private hands. Secondly, SOEs provide basic public goods and services at a low price. When you're giving away to the private firms, we are charged by fees and prices which are higher than normal. Thank you.
All right, we're progressing, getting there slowly. Let me call upon the last and final speaker of the the government side to present the case of the team.
Good afternoon. Very interesting topic. Privatization. I am one of the young Papua New Guinean who graduated from this university. I was got employed directly by BSP and gave the opportunity for me to progress and contribute to this nation building. Privatization. It's a topic, a hot topic, where needs to be understood and challenged and understood and digest. But when you look at the reasons why privatizations have been implemented, it's for the good of the nation, development, and also to help fund the budget of the country. Budget are done based on focus, thinking that the government will raise money internally. When they don't get money internally, they look outside. And the sole purpose of a government is to govern, not to operate a business. When you operate a business, you forget your sole purpose to deliver basic service by governing what has been invested in the country. If you focus on profit making, you focus on government, governing of the country. So why would government wasting time on governing SOE and forget about its sole purpose of governing the nation? You must know that you need money to be invested in an organization and you expect a return. You cannot deny the fact that Papua New Guinea is stagnant at the moment. It's because of the private sector that is paying tax, that is funding your budget. Why are we having a deficit budget every year and looking outside of the country to raise funds through loans? And when you look at the budget, the big chunk of the budget is going to paying the salaries every fortnight for government servants. Do you know how much the government private employees receive every fortnight? Do you know? Can anyone guess? $1 billion plus. And that's a hell lot of money for a fortnight. For a fortnight. That money should be invested in somewhere. Therefore, when SOEs are not performing, get them privatized, and get that money, fund the budget, and get extra money from the privatization. That's what has been happening. And thank you to Somare. Semekere Marauta 2022, he framed the financial act that now you and I are benefiting. When you say service delivery, PNG power, I don't see PNG power everywhere in the country. Still people are lacking basic power, not water PNG, Ederanu. Now they have been part of water PNG now. So are you having water in your villages? Think PSP is now going into villages. You can say bad things, but BSP has done very well. And BSP is one of the best private business that pays the tax to the government budget. It's the first. Go and check. So I think you know where the governments are not providing service. You cry, but you are just forcing. But thank you for your points. You have confirmed that privatization is the way to go for the country. Thank you.
Okay, that was the final speaker for the government side. Thank you. Give him a hand, Loyam. And finally, the last speaker of the opposition side will do the conclusion and wrap up the case for the negative side.
Thank you, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, the adjudicators, and thank you, the affirmative team, for the wonderful presentation, specifically to the final speaker. Okay, you guys actually mentioned that government, country like Papua New Guinea, always and has been having high budget deficit. Okay, so in order to fund the deficit, they have to prioritize SOE. Okay. But the question though that we have to ask ourselves, and being in the power of making decision, is that in order for you to borrow a loan, you must have the foundation as well, okay? You must have a solid foundation as a government. You must have a business asset supporting you and enabling you in order to get the loan. You can't just sell everything and get the loan, okay? That's economically not the right, so it is an irrational economic choice, okay? So you must have the foundation, set the foundation well before you obtain a loan, okay? So not a full prioritization of all the state-owned enterprises will be able to fund the high budget deficit, okay? So as the negative team going against the topic, privatization, the state-owned enterprises should not be privatized in Papua New Guinea or in any developing country. Okay, it's because, as my colleagues have mentioned, socially, okay, it will have a negative implications on the people, particularly. Okay, the welfare of the people is the main concern of the government. Okay, economically, it will not be efficient. Okay. And in terms of the social implication, okay, what happened in Argentina, as I mentioned in my earlier presentation, it was a disaster for the country, okay? Electricity company plus telecommunication company run by the state, prioritized to the business, then it increased the bills, and people, regardless of whether they're poor or rich or in between, they have to meet the demand of the private company, okay, owning the already privatized business to the private sector, okay? So in case of Papua New Guinea, okay, if, let's see, for instance, if water PNG is privatized, and especially in urban centers like Port Moresby, majority of the citizens, they live in settlements, okay? Okay, so the welfare of the citizen is the main concern of the government, okay? The government must have the business, okay, not to subsidize. Okay, so people who are living in the settlement, they are not paying for the bills, okay? It is subsidized by the government, so the profit made by the state-owned enterprises subsidizes, okay, and enables them to improve their welfare, okay? Right, so as, to conclude the point, as Abraham Lincoln, okay, once said that the government is for the people, by the people, and of the people, so any decision that government make is for the people, by the people, and of the people, okay? So concerning their welfare, okay? So if any state-owned enterprise, the decision is made by the government to be prioritized to any business, then business is obviously for the profit, by the profit, and of the profit, and they don't give a damn about whether you are poor or rich, okay? So therefore we agree and firmly believe that state-owned enterprises, government business should not be privatized to any business companies in a developing country such as Papua New Guinea. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's give a hand to both teams. I understand there are members of who are observing and who are witnessing the debate that is going on have asked if we could give them time to ask questions or raise points. Unfortunately, we've actually run out of time. I mean, the first morning session has taken much of the time, as you understand. We've really started late. But we'll give about 3-4 minutes for the umpires to tabulate the scores and then announce the winning team for round 1 and then announce the winning team for round 2. While they're doing that, perhaps I we'll open it up to the floor for the floor to have one or two comments or questions in relation to the two topics, one on privatization and the other, of course, on a complete shutdown consequent to COVID-19, which the debating topic says is bad for business. So for me personally, in terms of the debate, I think we could have put a little bit of kick and a little bit of fireworks to it, but it did not happen. So maybe next time. I mean, there are many ways in which we can argue. For example, using international experience in economics, using the idea of public goods as a basis for state-owned enterprise and the provision of such goods. So let me open it to the floor, and if we have one or two questions from or issues, please, if you're making a statement based on your own view in regards to privatization of COVID, make it short, sharp, and short. Do not, do a long, winding statement. At the end of the day, we don't know where the head is and where the tail is. So we're all as much as confused like you. Yes, Mr. Mawa. We don't have, yeah, I think we use this, but I think they will use that to respond. Mane, and chief blogging, I'm just stop replacing sing, I'm just talk, just speak.
I just want to make a comment on the last topic. I think that's the privatization. If you look at state-owned enterprises, we have come through a lot of process from corporatization, partial privatization. There was a lot of things since independence to now. Post-PNG was changed to, and telecommunication, they were changed to post-PNG now, telecom. We have come a long way. But I think the main issue is the issue of governance. I think it's the vertical governance that we have that's a problem. From the National Executive Council down to the minister responsible to the managing director, so that the board of directors down to the management. And because of a lot of constant political interference, we've had a lot of problems within state-owned enterprises. If you look at the history of state-owned enterprises, they've never paid a single tax to the government in terms of corporate tax. And I think when we talk about the budget, the companies, the state-owned enterprises have not supported our national budget in any way. The employees pay direct salaries and wages tax, but not corporate tax. A lot of the companies have made continuous losses. That's one of the problems. So when we try to privatize, that's the way forward. Now, in the case of NAS Fund, and when Semakere changed the Securities Commission Act and tried to insulate the super funds from political interference, we can see a lot of changes now. PNGBC is one of the classical cases of a good privatization. So privatization is the way forward. But then when we look at the opposition, they're also raising some genuine concerns about community social obligations. Community social obligations are, like, we go back to what Joshua said, there are different modalities of privatizing, outsourcing, the different models that we can use. But the idea is to let the private sector do the business and let the government manage the government affairs. So we can deal with the issues of community service obligations. I think that's the key area there. But I see a lot of people are talking about deficit budget, deficit budget. There's nothing wrong with deficit budgets. You can have deficit budgets. But the problem is, when you go out to get loan, what do you do with that money that you're borrowing? If you put it into infrastructure and if you put it to important things like that, then we can reap the benefits in the long term. But if you borrow the money and try to meet the recurrent expenditure, then we're wasting money, we're waste of time. So this country has gone beyond our borrowing limit. You know, we've gone before the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Our debt to equity, GDP ratio has gone up. So we're really up to the neck. But the question, I think the challenge is a responsible debt management strategy for the government to manage that. At the same time, we try, whatever money we borrow, we put it to the private sector. I mean, put it to infrastructure projects that will sustain the economy in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Any more? Mr. Ayus.
Thank you. My question is directed to the first group that presented the topic on COVID-19. Let us say that after 45 years of independence, PNG is still rated as one of the middle-income earners, middle-income economy, but at the lower end of that rating. Given that scenario, and given the fact that we had COVID-19 coming in this year, and it was a reality check for this country. So in that regard, given that perspective, given that understanding, my question is directed to the government side of that first debate group on COVID-19. What are your policy advice to, as a government, in terms of growing this country and in terms of aligning those policy directives together with our corporate strategies? So what are your policy advice in terms of growing and leading this country forward? Thank you.
One of the MCs reminded me that we've actually run overshoot time. So let me ask the chief adjudicator to give the, I'm still trying to sort of talk to and negotiate time, but I think time has really run out on us. So we may not have the final, because there's another business case that has to be presented. Please see me, Paul Putimanlo, educators and umpires have done a wonderful job. So let me call upon Dr. Ryle, who is the chief judge, to present the results of the 2 rounds of debate.
Thank you, Dr. Sauce. First, before I announce the winners for round 1 and round 2, I would like to congratulate the 4 teams who participated in this debate. I think they deserve a big round of applause. Dr. Sauce needs to be commended also for choosing 2 interesting topics, which is also very timely. Please, a round of applause for our moderator. And I would like also to thank my co-adjudicator, Dr. Kinkin, and Dr. Awili for joining me this afternoon. It was indeed, a very interesting discussion presentation coming from the 4 teams, and I myself also learned a lot. However, we need to announce the winner. If I will only be, the sole decision maker for this, I will announce 4 teams to be the winners. However, in every competition, there would always be a winner and also not really a loser, but, okay, I'm just trying to be diplomatic. Anyway, for round 1, the topic is about on COVID. So based on the scores given by the 3 judges, I am declaring Team Tisa as the winner. In fact, it was a very close fight, a matter of 0.44 points. Okay, 0.44. Then for the second round, the topic is on privatization of SOEs. I am declaring, on behalf of the adjudicators, Team BSP as the winner. So congratulations, Team TISA and Team BSP.
Thank you, everyone, and that concludes the debating part of the Pinnacle 2020. Let's give us ourselves 2 to 3 minutes break. Stand up, stretch. If you need to get, I don't really encourage people to go outside, because if you go outside, it will take us another 25 minutes to come back in. Because Papua New Guineans, you know what? We are not sheep. You know what sheep are? I live in New Zealand. Sheep, they're very loyal, faithful. If you touch them, they don't just run around and fight back. They listen to you. PNG, you mean no sheep, you mean meme. So if I give you 2 to 3 minutes now, you go outside, you're a goat. You'll be going looking for trees and trying to eat leaves and bark. So just remain here. Let me talk to Dr. Babu, and let's try and figure out what we're going to do in the next session now. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we got a party to attend. Let's not kill ourselves in all these chores. It's been a hard year, right? Thanks to COVID. So let's just end the business case very quickly, and then listen to some live music from the band and sip a glass of wine. Why not? Taking charge of the business plan. Yeah. So we will now go ahead with the business plan. Let me ask the master of ceremony and the person who will take charge, Mr. Poya, to give ourselves a ground rule. Mr. Poya, you don't need to remove that. The students will help you. But do you want a reorganization of the front? Mr. Poya would like to have some volunteers, please, gentlemen. Not the ladies. The ladies deserve a break. Be men enough and be gentlemen. Come and help, Mr. Poya. In fact, I'm beginning to see how the men folks are treating their wives back at home. Like, they just sit like kings here, like Africans. Sit down, drink wine all day long. Trango merigo pulam wara na kind of sema.
Put it blank.
Okay, those. Hello. Emona. Okay, guys, those you are presenting, all right, I want you to move to this side so that, because of time factor, we'll keep moving, all right? You know what I mean by keep moving? All right, so you line up this way. In your group, you sit on this side. And the first group that want to go first, you sit here. Okay, so we will try to speed it out a little bit because time is not in our favor. So some of us have to come and fix this place up.
Yeah. How do you get
we line